Hello, everybody. FBI. Hello, everybody. FBI here. I'm here, and welcome back to another F1 Manager 23 edition playthrough. And of course, in this playthrough, this is part 3 of our playthrough. In the last part, we were mostly preparing for the Grand Prix. We did some development, as you'll remember. And of course, we are also getting prepared just for the race in general. We have done a little bit of scouting. As you can see, we are currently doing some scouting as far as it goes for Marina, Basin, and Sophia generally. But as it would be, we are going to prepare for ourselves for the race. And, we were preparing for the first race. Now, one thing I want to touch base on before we get into the race is, of course, the cost cap. If you all don't know what the cost cap is, the cost cap was introduced into Formula One fairly recently, and it is how much money we can spend at any given point in time. Now, as it would be projected, we can spend about $101 million left in the overall budget cap. Now, this, of course, is because of the factor that we already had a lot of spending. Now, I know that you're probably going to look at spent budget cap and say, well, you have $116 million left still on the budget cap. How come you're not basing it off that? And that's because the projected budget cap is really how much we really have left generally, given what has gone on throughout the entirety of the season, whether it's facilities, emergency purchases, pit crew, scouting team, engineering team, staff, and of course car development and car research. And given the time frame and given over time, if we do stuff like upgrading our facilities and or continuing to, hire bigger and better staff, we're going to have an eventual path of things happening to where we will just end up not being able to have any more budget for, say, going forward. Now, we are going to have to look for a new technical chief because, of course, their contract is out in about 10 months. So we'll have to look at the technical chief staff and see who we can go for. But unfortunately, right now, we're using all of our scouts, meaning that we really just don't have the scouting potential yet. But I do think there is some scouts that we can look towards and people we can look at going forward. One of them being, of course, Diana Romano. And, I guess we do have some scouts available. So I guess we'll go ahead and use our third scout to scout Diana, see what they have, and see if we should hire them. But the other staff that we'll have to look towards potentially replacing is one of our racing engineers. And right now, this is the one working for Nick DeVries. Now, it's possible we may just hire them again, but it's always a good idea to just keep in mind if there's any potential new engineers or people that we can bring in that will, of course, help out over time and just generally help out. But with that having said, it really is all dependent on you generally as a person to bring in the right staff and bring in the right people. And of course, if there's no one right now that will take interest, don't worry. Every year the roster changes and it, of course, reshuffles, meaning that you will be ending up with a never-ending staff, per se. and you'll end up with never really running out of people to potentially look at / potentially grab over time. But with that being said, let's go ahead and get into our next race, and of course we'll be getting things going. And with that being said, we have some driver development improvements. Let's see what happens. So, no real big improvements, but with that being said, we should also look at how we develop our team and how we develop our drivers. Now, of course, you can build balance, which will just have them work on everything, but in general, that may not produce the same results as if we were to work on just slight aspects of their driving to improve them overall. So, something like for Yuki Tsunoda, he has trouble with control, so maybe wheel to wheel will help him, of course, get better because it'll improve his control over time. But if we look at someone like Nick DeVries, they have some trouble with like control as well, which we can work with driving standards. But they also have other aspects that possibly could be a problem. Same thing goes with like Liam Lawson. We could look at what he's doing wrong or what he has problems with. Right now, I'm seeing, for instance, the smoothness may be a problem, so we should work on pace with long runs. But we can also work on race strategy if we want to. But I think pace with long runs and stuff will help him overall improve. And those are just some things that we can look at. Of course, we can look at what the car has behind us, and our car, not great, per se. But, of course, it's not, of course, bad either. With that being said, though, we're going to go ahead and continue into the very first race of the season. Now, every month, the game changes up how your pit crew will be trained and how they should train or how you want them to train. Now, overall, we want to try and make sure that we improve the car as much as we can. We remove as many mistakes as we can or lower the possibility of mistakes. And we also improve on chances to, well, in a sense, really just make sure that things are fairly, if you will, in our effort to be overall better, just generally. Now, unfortunately, we can't always make things work out in great favor for us, but we can ensure that there are some aspects that we can work on, which will help us improve overall and just generally be able to, of course, get us into a better position with just general improvements, if you will. And that's something that we'll have to keep an eye out on and keep an eye out for, because obviously, as it would be, changing the way that the aspects work and the way that we work on certain aspects of the game will determine what is going to help and what's going to work. Now, obviously, we want to try to make sure that generally we also don't tire out our people too much. So, ensuring good rest also can be fairly useful in general, depending on the situation. Now, of course, as it would be, try to make sure to balance out the rest and also the overall improvement is going to always be a typical balancing act. So just make sure that things are as balanced as they can be. But for now, I think that's what our fit training is going to be like going into next month. And with that being said, let's go ahead and get into the race. Now, at this point in time, we're going to get into our first race. When it comes to race prep, we have to prepare what we're going to improve on. Now, these are the things that our sponsors expect from us. Now, these are just optional markers. They're not expected. But because it's unknown how AlphaTauri will be, going into this race. We're not going to promise or guarantee a lot. But of course, if we were to guarantee anything, we would gain more money, as you can see. The more we can promise, like for instance, being able to get both drivers in Q2, would likely result in more money from the sponsors. But of course, generally, we don't really want to promise anything that we can't afford to promise on, because there will be a slight loss in money. And that's a luxury that we really have to make sure we focus on for a little while, is not guaranteeing too much. Because if we guarantee too much, we're going to lose the money, and that's going to not help our bank account or our lump sum to do more development over time, or even just manufacturing over time with the car when we need replacement parts. And of course, even goes the same with engine, ERS, and gearbox. So it's a lot that can potentially go wrong if we guarantee the wrong options at the time. And with that being said, let's go ahead and get into the very first race of the season. And I do apologize that I forgot to change the sound over. And there's no sound, so that was my mistake. I'm working on 2 different computers, and sometimes I forget to switch over to sound. Hopefully by the next video that'll be fixed, but right now, I do apologize that this happened. Alright, and with that being said, I'm gonna actually go ahead and call this episode here for now, because one, the sound issue, but two, because of the factor that I'm not sure how long it'll take to explain everything going into P1, and of course getting things ready for P1. So I'll leave that into the next part. But if you do like this video and you want to continue to follow this series, don't forget to hit the like button, and of course the subscribe button, and of course hit that bell notification so you know exactly when the next video is coming out. And of course you can continue to keep up with the F1 Manager 23 series. But with that being said, I will see you all on the next one, and it's Stephanie I signing out saying farewell, everyone.